Hey guys, welcome to Peripheral Vision, and today we're taking a look at the Turbo Touch 360 by Triax for the Super Nintendo. Alright, so the name really says it all with this controller, the Turbo being for its turbo functionality, the Touch being for the touchpad, and the 360 being for the 360 degrees of this circle. And Triax did a pretty good job here. Let's start by looking at the overall build. And it's a little bit bigger than a standard SNES controller, and it fits well for larger hands, so I like that. And the curve really leads the pointer fingers up to the L and R triggers, and that's something that smaller controllers sometimes have issues with. The buttons, as far as the standard buttons, are all, well, standard. If you look, you can see that the X and Y are bubbled out, and the A and B have little dimples, so that's a thing to note. Go towards the center of the controller, and we'd have our 4 turbo triggers, and that is for B, A, X, and Y, and they function exactly how you would expect any turbo switch to function. The start and select are up here in the corner, and that works pretty well. It's not as weird or awkward as you might imagine going from the start and select being in the center to them being up top here, because you can just sort of reach. And then we have the main event, the touchpad of the Turbo Touch. Now, the touchpad itself works pretty well. Actually, it works really well, in fact. They managed to get it to the point where it will work for games like fighting games or racing games. It is very responsive. If you do different things and combinations with it, it will work pretty well. They even have a little indentation here, so that if you're resting your thumb, it won't rest on top of the touchpad, and because it is very sensitive and responsive, if you were to rest your finger on top of it, it would respond. It would act as if you were pressing the button. So they have the little lip to prevent that. And it's not 100% effective. Sometimes you'll find yourself accidentally leaving your thumb on the touchpad itself, and you'll accidentally walk up a cliff or something, and that's more common of a problem than it should be. Another issue with the touchpad is that with a normal D-pad, if you were moving right and had to suddenly move left, you would basically just toggle your thumb. But with this one, you've got a little bit more of a distance to cover. So playing games that have really precision controls, that have you stopping, moving one direction, and then abruptly changing direction, those can be a little wonky and hard to get used to, because you do have that little bit of distance to cover. But overall, the Turbo Touch 360 is genuinely a pretty good controller, if you are really interested in having a touchpad. However, this is one of those controllers that, although it is neat and it works fairly well, there's no real reason to own this over, say, a standard Super Nintendo controller. It's another novelty controller by Triax, and another controller that I have reviewed. Later days.